Life by Dr. Pat. Leading innovation in fertility excellence.
Deep dive into reproduction with life by Dr. Pat.
Shoulders to cry on through IVF journey.
All right, let's jump right in. Today we're doing a deep dive into IVF, and wow, you found some interesting stuff. A YouTube video from a Bangkok clinic, Life by Dr. Pat, breaking down their success rates, and wait, some of his articles too.
Yeah, I figured we could tackle both the, data side and the emotional side, because IVF, it's not just about the science, right?
Absolutely. It's a huge life decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting in Bangkok at this clinic, Life by Dr. Pat, and he's laying out all these success rates, but before we get too excited, maybe some context, like IVF basics for anyone just joining us.
Sure. So IVF stands for in vitro fertilization, and it's basically helping people conceive outside the body. Eggs are retrieved, fertilized with sperm in a lab setting, and then that embryo is transferred back to the uterus.
Gotcha. So why are success rates so different? I mean, we're seeing Dr. Pat's boasting 85%, but I know the average in Thailand is way lower. Why is that?
So many factors. Women's age, overall health, quality of the eggs and sperm, even lifestyle choices play a role. And of course, the clinic's expertise, the technology they use, all that matters.
Makes sense. Okay, so Dr. Pat's video, it shows he's had patients from 17 different countries. Average age is 39, youngest patient was 27, oldest 49. Pretty wide range, huh?
Yeah, it really shows you IVF isn't just for, a specific age group. It's an option at various stages in life.
Right. But back to those high success rates for a sec. I mean, 85% per embryo transfer. That's a lot higher than the 57.5% Thai average. Why do you think that is?
Tough to say definitively without, more info from Dr. Pat. But one thought, patient selection. Clinics with those higher rates might have stricter criteria for who they accept, focusing on patients with, a better chance of success from the get-go.
So it's not just about the clinic itself, but also who they treat.
Exactly. And gotta remember, even with high success rates, there's no guarantees. Everybody's different, responds to treatment in its own way.
True. So, okay, Dr. Pat's numbers look good, but gotta keep in mind, individual outcomes vary.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's where the emotional side of all this really comes into play, which we'll get to in a bit.
Right, so we're getting a picture of Life by Dr. Pat. Impressive stats, patients flying in from everywhere, maybe due to expertise, those high success rates. But each person's journey is unique. These numbers aren't a guarantee.
Exactly. And speaking of unique journeys, Dr. Pat's articles, they really dive into the emotional roller coaster of IVF.
You keep saying emotional roller coaster. Why is that such a common way to describe IVF?
Well, think about it. There's the hope when you start, the excitement. Then comes the stress of appointments, the injections, waiting for results. Then maybe disappointment if a cycle fails, or overwhelming joy if it works. All this happening while, societal pressures exist, maybe personal doubts creep in. A lot to handle.
Sounds intense. And Dr. Pat's articles don't shy away from the tough stuff, huh?
Not at all. He actually goes into the psychology of it all, even compares failed IVF cycles to miscarriages in terms of the grief they can cause.
Wow. That puts things into perspective. Not just a physical process, but a whole emotional journey, too. But he's not, only focusing on the negative, right?
No. He talks about the hope and excitement people feel, too. He even has this quote in one article, let me see. It's amazing how excited a couple gets about a 40% chance of getting pregnant, when in reality, there's more chance of it not working.
That is so true. When you're struggling with infertility, even a small chance can feel huge. But got to be realistic about those odds, too. And how do those odds, play into the emotional side of it all?
Well, imagine putting all your hope into that 40%, then the disappointment of a failed cycle hits. Devastating. That's why managing expectations, having a good support system, that's crucial during IVF.
Yeah, I see that. It's not just the science, it's the human side of it all. So we left off talking about, the weight of this whole thing. It's not just the science of IVF, it's the emotional journey.
Yeah.
And Dr. Pat, he doesn't just mention it, he goes pretty deep in these articles.
Oh, yeah, he offers some, real strategies for handling the ups and downs, not just, hey, it's tough, good luck.
Okay, so there's actual advice, not just all doom and gloom.
Exactly. He talks about mindfulness, breathing exercises, even yoga, stuff to manage anxiety throughout, not just when things, go wrong.
Makes sense. I mean, just thinking about all the appointments, the procedures, I'd be a nervous wreck.
Plus, the meds used in IVF, they can mess with your mood too, so having those coping skills in place is huge.
Right. And it's not just your emotions, is it?
Yeah.
Dr. Pat talks about the strain on relationships, too.
Oh, for sure. He's big on communication with your partner. IVF can really bond a couple, but it also forces those tough conversations.
Yeah, you need to be extra strong, communicate well to get through something like this together.
He even suggests couples therapy if needed, recognizing you might need that extra support.
So it's like he goes above and beyond for his patients. That Facebook page, Chit Chat with Dr. Pat, is another example.
Totally. Creating that space, letting people connect, share their stories, get info from someone they trust.
But even online support, there are limits, right? It's
Yeah.
great for connection, but not a replacement for like actual therapy if you need it.
Oh, 100%. Those communities are valuable, but they shouldn't be your only support. Sometimes you need a therapist, someone specializing in infertility to really guide you.
So he's covering all the bases: info, coping strategies, community, even professional help.
It seems that way. And it shows achieving pregnancy, yeah, that's the goal, but the emotional journey matters just as much.
Okay, so we've got the science, the stats, Dr. Pat's approach, all the feelings involved. But I feel like there's something bigger here, beyond just the individual experience.
Yeah, you're right. IVF getting more accessible, more successful, raises some societal questions too.
Let's go there, the big picture stuff. This is where things get really interesting. Right?
Oh, absolutely. We're
Yeah.
talking about challenging traditional ideas of family, parenthood.
Like, even without IVF, things have changed so much.
Yeah.
Blended families, same-sex couples raising kids, single parents by choice.
And IVF adds a whole other layer. People who maybe couldn't have biological kids, now they can. And as tech gets even better, gene editing, maybe even artificial wombs, who knows?
It's kind of mind-blowing where this could all lead. But it's not just the tech. It's how we adapt as a society.
Exactly. Ethical questions, potential for inequality, making sure it's used responsibly. It's a lot.
Yeah, no easy answers there, but a conversation we need to be having.
I agree. Approach it with curiosity, but caution too, weighing benefits and risks for individuals and society as a whole.
So what can we do as individuals to stay informed, engaged in this whole thing?
Stay curious. Keep learning about IVF, reproductive tech. Talk to people with different views, respectfully, of course. And if you're considering IVF personally, do your research. Find good doctors to guide you.
Great points. And it goes back to that support system, right? Whether you're facing IVF yourself or just trying to wrap your head around it all, having people to talk to is key.
Totally. Knowledge is power, and sharing that knowledge helps us all navigate this stuff together.
Well, listener, we've covered a lot in this deep dive. Dr. Pat's work, the science, the emotions, even the big societal questions IVF brings up.
It's been fascinating. Hopefully you, listener, feel like you can keep exploring these ideas too.
Because knowledge is a journey, right? There's always more to learn. Stay curious, stay informed, keep asking those questions. That's what these deep dives are all about. All right, so we've talked about the science, the success rates, the emotional roller coaster, but now I'm thinking about the bigger picture. Like, what happens when technology like IVF becomes more, I don't know, common?
That's when things get really interesting. It challenges our whole idea of family, of parenthood, like who gets to use this tech. And when those lines start to blur, what happens then?
Makes you think about how much family structures have already changed. Even without IVF, we've got blended families, same-sex couples raising kids, single parents by choice.
Right. IVF adds another layer. People who might never have had biological kids, now they can. And imagine as technology gets even more advanced, like gene editing or even artificial wombs. I mean, who knows?
Wow. It's mind-blowing to think about where all this leads. But it's not just the tech itself, right? It's how we adapt as a society.
Exactly. Ethical questions pop up, potential for inequality, making sure it's all used responsibly. It's a lot to consider.
No easy answers, for sure. But a conversation we can't ignore.
Definitely. Got to approach it with a curiosity, but with some caution, too. Weighing the benefits and risks for everyone involved, for individuals, for society as a whole.
So what can we do as individuals to, like, stay informed, to participate in this whole conversation?
Well, first off, stay curious. Keep learning about these advancements in IVF and reproductive technology, you know. Engage in those conversations. Talk to people with different views, respectfully, of course. And if IVF is something you're considering, do your research. Find those qualified professionals to guide you.
All great points, and it kind of circles back to what we talked about before, that strong support system. Whether you're dealing with IVF personally or just trying to understand it all, having people you can talk to, learn from, that makes a difference.
For sure. Knowledge is power. And sharing that knowledge, it helps us all navigate this complex world together.
So, listener, we've covered a lot of ground today. We explored Dr. Pat's work, the science behind IVF, the emotions that come with it, and even those bigger societal questions that this technology raises. It's been a journey.
It really has. And hopefully, listener, you feel like you can continue this exploration, keep those questions coming.
Because knowledge is an ongoing thing, right? There's always more to discover. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those questions. That's what makes these deep dives so fascinating.
Leading. Innovation. Fertility. Excellence. Life by Dr. Pat. Leading innovation in fertility excellence.